Hello, everybody. Good morning. If you're on the East Coast, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and your professor never sleeps, always in defense of the great republic. Hello, I'm Professor Toto. This is the Conservative College, TNN, Toto's News Network. And why do they call me that? Because I have one job in life, and that's to pull back the curtain of lies on the liberal left. And tonight, we're here to help you with another lesson. Understand the great republic that we all live in, that we love, and that we cherish. I have been asked to address this issue tonight, and it needs to be addressed because there's a lot of chatter on the internet about martial law, about the Insurrection Act, and some of the president's options at this very troubled time in our nation. So tonight, I'm going to make this information available to you. I do not make this video in any shape, form, or fashion to condone anything or to reject or oppose anything. It's simply for educational purposes. I have to say that because they've been taking so many of my videos down here on YouTube. So I want to make it clear to those that are watching from YouTube, I'm in no way endorsing any kind of activity. I'm simply Professor Toto, and this is what we do. Now let's get to the lesson tonight. Are you ready? Good evening, everybody. You know I love you from the bottom of my heart. You guys are my friends, my followers, my students, and I'm here to do one job. That's to keep you empowered with knowledge. God said, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge or understanding. We are here to help you understand. Tonight, I want to talk to you about the most powerful man in the world, the United States president. But why is he the most powerful man in the world? Because at his sole command, lies the greatest military might the world has ever known. Within the hands of the president lies the power to destroy all life on this planet within 72 hours. Most people are not aware of the elephantine strength of the United States military. And one man controls that power. That's why elections are so important, and that's why they have consequences. The United States president has one duty. He takes an oath on January the 20th every 4 years to do one thing: to protect and to defend the Constitution of this great republic. That is his number one primary job. Everything else is lagniappe. That is his sworn duty. And he makes that oath against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. That means anything happening even here in America that comes against the dignity of the United States Constitution and the republic that stands on that Constitution. So the question is tonight, in light of where we are at this point in American history, with our nation so divided, I believe everyone watching would agree this nation is currently a powder keg waiting to explode. There is a line that has been drawn through this nation that we have never seen in my lifetime. There are opposing forces that you cannot even have legislative hearings. I watched the one in Michigan today where the legislators harass the citizens. There is a dividing line that is being drawn across the sands of this nation. You can feel it. You know not to even say the wrong word in public anymore. Those days did not exist in my childhood and even in my manhood until recently. Donald John Trump came to this office and began rooting out the swamp. Now, that word is a euphemism for the dirty dealings and the tactics of Washington, D.C. Is there anything, in your opinion, that would be more destructive to our way of life, the Republic, than to destroy the very fabric of the Republic, which is one man gets one vote? Can you think of anything? If that is destroyed, the Republic is destroyed. Because in fact, we would have no legitimate president in our future ever. We would never know who the president is. So nothing is more vital than preserving the election system of the United States of America. And by now, you would be a fool, after hearing these hearings and seeing this evidence, to not agree that there is massive fraud being uncovered in these key battleground states. So let me explain to you some of our options. There are three sets of laws, main primary laws in the United States of America: civil, criminal, and military. These are your three areas of law that are the predominant pillars of our society: civil, criminal, military. Now, we call military law martial law. That's when you hear the word martial, it's referring to military. It is our custom here in the United States of America to predominantly use civil and criminal law. Military law is normally reserved for only members of the military. In civil law, there's something called habeas corpus. Now think about that word, habeas corpus. It's Latin. Most all of our legalese is Latin because we borrow it from those European sources. The word habeas corpus, you hear the word corpse, right? Well, you know a corpse is a body. So habeas corpus simply means bring the body. It is a powerful privilege that we love here in America. The writ of habeas corpus. Judges use that when you've been in jail. If you get arrested today, according to our laws, within 72 hours, you have to be before a judge. That is called the writ of habeas corpus. It is a right that we cherish, that we love. It makes sure that there's a legal right for you to be in jail, that judge to make sure that this is a legal arrest. Okay, so habeas corpus is something that brings you to a court of civil law or criminal law. Criminal law at that point. But the writ of habeas corpus is a cornerstone in our democracy. The military, on the other hand, does not use habeas corpus. The military, they operate under a set of laws that says you hold the prisoner until the matter is settled in military court. With all that said, Donald John Trump, is the chief law enforcement officer in our land. I want you to hear what I just said. He is the chief law enforcement officer in our land. Let me read to you from the website of the United States Congress the exact duties of the president. The president is both the head of state and the head of government of the United States of America and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Under Article 2 of the Constitution, the president alone is responsible for the execution and the enforcement of all laws created by Congress. Goes on to say he creates departments to help him reach those ends, such as the Department of Justice. Bill Barr is appointed to head that department at the sole pleasure of the most powerful man in the world. It is Donald Trump's duty to enforce the laws in our Constitution. It's not Bill Barr's. It's nobody's responsibility but the president. You need to remember that as we go forth in this lesson tonight, help you understand. So let me ask you, if that is your duty, the chief law enforcement officer, and here you sit at your desk and you have in your possession thousands of affidavits from citizens in your nation swearing under oath with the possibility, if they're lying, of going to prison. All of this evidence, and let me tell you something, there is no greater evidence you will ever bring to court than a sworn affidavit. Whenever Giuliani holds up this white binder of these sworn affidavits, ladies and gentlemen, that is legally binding evidence in a court, any court of the nation. And when you have over 1,000 of them and you are the president of the United States and you see on your desk the evidence of election fraud, well, it is your responsibility to enforce the laws that say this must stop. But you give deference to the civil law and the criminal law, and you let it work first. But what happens if you are the executive officer of this nation and you simply cannot get a fair shake in civil court? I want you to think about these questions because I'm leading you to a powerful part of our Constitution that's going to shock you. What happens if you see all these crimes and you tell your lawyers, bring it to the civil courts to stop this? And you get there and those are maybe Democratic appointed judges. They just don't want to hear nothing you've got to say, that it's not going to happen. What are your options at that point? What if Bill Barr just doesn't want to see the evidence that you, the chief executive officer, the chief law enforcement officer, is looking at? Remember, I just read to you, according to the Constitution, all the powers of law enforcement is vested. That word is powerful. The word vested is powerful. Within that man lies the power to prosecute. He defers that power to his Department of Justice, but it all comes back to him. People don't realize this. Maybe you haven't realized that. So what is his options at that point if the courts will not do what they're supposed to do? Well, to get that answer, let's look at history, because history always repeats itself, doesn't it? A false voting system is an attack on the republic. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. He was not a Democrat. The man that set the black people free in our nation, wonderful man, was a Republican. Well, he was the president in 1861, which is basically about 200 years ago now, during the most divided time in our nation's history. The only difference between then and now is they were fighting with weapons and we're fighting with masses of demonstrators, and we're at a war. I believe the United States is in a cold war, if you will. There's no battle going on militarily, but there is a battle going on in our nation right now. So Abraham Lincoln was president at sort of the same type of situation that Donald Trump is, a completely divided nation. Even the Democrats say there's never been a more divided time in our history. So, because the republic was being attacked, President Abraham Lincoln issued an order in 1861, right after the Civil War, suspending the writ of habeas corpus that I mentioned earlier. He completely suspended the right for you to go to a civil judge. Now, if you're arrested by the military for coming against the presidency and coming against the government, you would be brought to military tribunal, and there was no habeas corpus. No judge, no civil judge could order you brought to their court because they were now under military law to protect the United States. And I'm going to read to you in a moment what the Constitution says about this. So stay with me. You might want to get your friends in here for this knowledge, if any of them still up tonight. Some of my California people are probably still up over there. Now, whenever President Lincoln made this proclamation, the Supreme Court justice by the name of Roger Taney of Maryland wrote a writ of habeas corpus to bring someone that President Lincoln had arrested to the civil court. And of course, they would not bring him. The military wouldn't bring him because Lincoln had suspended habeas corpus. Well, Roger Taney of Maryland referred to Article 1 of the Constitution, Section 9, and he agreed, and so we have precedent in the Supreme Court. He agreed that there was power in the Constitution to, and I'll read it to you, that military law could be enforced for what? Public safety. But he argued that this power lied with the Congress and not the president. To make a long story short, eventually he changed his ruling once he came to understand, and Congress happened to agree with the president, that power did not lie with Congress. It lied with the president to suspend habeas corpus and to declare martial law for public safety, or for the safety of the republic. What safety measure is any greater than the voting systems of this nation if they are under attack, as we have been told? Now, Lincoln, at that point, that was April the 27th, 1861, suspended the writ of habeas corpus, and that is when Congress agreed with him, and then now the precedent was set in the Supreme Court. It's in the books, cannot be overlooked. Precedent is there for the use of the Insurrection Act. That's what this is called. Whenever the president can literally take over National Guards of the states, and he, that's why he gave Minnesota the warning he gave them: get it together, guys. So the power is there to supersede the states in the interest of public safety and bring even the National Guard under his commands. Now, this, I think it was in the 1807 Act. This is called the Insurrection Act of 1807. It has been modified twice in the Congress. In 1861, a new section was added following or allowing the federal government to use the National Guard and the armed forces against the will of state government in the case of, are you ready? Rebellion against the legitimate authority of the government of the United States. In 1871, there was a third enactment or change made to this law to protect Black Americans from the Ku Klux Klan. Now listen carefully to what I'm fixing to tell you. This is a little hidden gem that very few people are aware of. But the students of this class, you're now aware of it. Get ready. In 1871, the third modification of the Insurrection Act said these words. Now, I tell you what, before I go there, let me remind you of my video I did last night telling you about our plan of going to the Supreme Court and what legal argument we plan to use at the Supreme Court. Do you remember? The Equal Protection Clause, correct? One set of voters getting to vote without an ID, the other set having to have one. This Equal Protection Clause. If you understand that, you'll understand what I'm about to read to you. So when it was codified for the third time, this language was added to the Insurrection Act. It allows for the federal government to use the Insurrection Act to enforce, are you ready? The Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Whoa, whoa, that's major. That's like major what I just told you. Do you understand the president has the power to bring martial law to enforce equal protection in this nation? No, that's big. That's huge. Our very argument in Supreme Court is what? Equal protection. Well, our Constitution was modified to include the use of military force when the Equal Protection Clause was being broken in the United States. I'll give you an example. When the Ku Klux Klan was hurting the black community in that regard, the black community was not getting equal protection under the law, right? So literally, the president at that time enforced the Insurrection Act and took over the National Guard of that state to enforce equal protection. Tell you what, it's major stuff, y'all. This is just amazing. Now, as we continue reading, you're going to find something else that's very interesting. And I'll tell you what, I'm just going to post it in my notes so that you can read. You need to go read Article 14, the 14th Amendment about equal protection, and then you need to read the articles about the Insurrection Act. So that's the end of my lesson tonight. And I'm making no predictions, no predications, no prognostications. I'm simply giving you information. I'm letting you know that our president made a speech today, and he inferred and said these words: I will use the Constitution to protect this nation. I believe him. Do you? I believe every word he's saying. Ladies and gentlemen, our nation is in crisis. And who knows what's going to happen? I'm Professor Toto from the Conservative College, and I hope that I've helped you pull back some curtains tonight to understand. Now, your fellow patriots, they're waiting to see this video as well, don't you think? You might want to hit that share button. If you haven't subscribed, you're really missing out. I would appreciate a subscription for all the hard work we do here for you to educate the Republic. The Republic is rising. Thank you so much for your gifts and your donations. God bless you, and may God bless these United States of America.